What's going on, Miami Dolphin fans? Mitchell Renz from Chat Sports, and coming up here on Dolphins Today, we're going to get into some Tua Tagovailoa replacements for 2022. Let's face it, he's had plenty of opportunities to show what kind of upside that he's going to be able to have as a quarterback. And since he was drafted number 5 overall back in 2020, I haven't really been all that impressed. So on today's show, I'm going to be breaking down some quarterbacks that Miami could either trade for, maybe sign a free agency, or go out and draft in the 2022 NFL Draft. Now, if you guys love the Dolphins and you always find yourself looking for new videos, I don't care if you're looking for a video on your way to work, maybe when you're walking your dog, or, when you're sitting down, dropping a number 2. It doesn't matter to me. At the end of the day, I want you guys to know everything going on around this team. So before we get into today's show, I want you to go ahead, look underneath the video, click that sub button. That way you never miss a thing. All right, so is it time to replace Tua? This has probably been one of the top trending stories over the past 24, 48 hours since Miami lost 34-3 up against the Tennessee Titans. And I think everybody would agree to this. If you watch Joe Burrow, if you watch Justin Herbert, Tua's not that good, right? And even go back to last season, Ryan Fitzpatrick was a better quarterback in the offense that Miami ran from top to bottom. Now, I'm not saying that Tua is the biggest reason why he's had his own struggles. They have a bad offensive line. They have no running game. Will Fuller's been a disaster. Devontae Parker's had some injury issues. Heck, a lot of their wide receivers have had injury issues. But what I do not want the Dolphins to do is waste away all their money. I don't want them to waste their draft capital. And if you could sit here and say Tua is the franchise quarterback, then you know what? You're not going to like today's show. The issue is, I personally do not think that Tua will ever be the franchise quarterback of the Dolphins. I actually don't think Tua is ever going to be a top 16 quarterback in the National Football League. And if I'm sitting here telling you that, and if you believe that, and if Chris Grier, Brian Flores, the entire Miami Dolphins organization believes that, then why the heck are you going to piss around with a guy when you have a team that I actually think with their defense from top to bottom, that's ready to go? Sure, you got to get the offensive side ready to go, but if you don't think your quarterback is top 16 or is ever going to be top 16, sorry, time to move on. So what do y'all think here? This is actually going to be the pinned comment on today's video. Is it time to move on from Tua? Y for yes or N for no? For those of you that do not know what a pinned comment is, it's going to be the very first comment on today's show. While you're getting hit with that YouTube ad break, I want you to scroll on down and get your votes in. Y for yes, N for no. Is it time to move on from Tua? All right, guys, coming up here, we are going to get into my potential Tua replacements, and we're going to start with some of the guys that you could potentially go out and trade for. Now, if you're going to move on from a QB, a lot of the times I like to say you got to be able to find an upgrade. Now, there's a lot of quarterbacks out there that I personally think would be upgrades over Tua, but when you look at the overall investment, the draft capital that Miami invested in him in number 5 overall, you're probably only going to go out and get a few big-name guys. Now, the name that always seems to be able to find a way on the show is Deshaun Watson. And I know I've said multiple times here on NFL Daily at Chat Sports, and I've said multiple times on this show that I think that Watson has top 5 overall talent. He currently is facing 22 legal allegations, so we'll see ultimately how that goes. But if it comes out that the legal allegations are nothing, Deshaun Watson's a free man, then I actually would probably put Watson at number 1 here on this list. When you look at everything that he would be able to do for this offense, he can throw, he can run, and sure, we didn't get to see him play in 2021. We at least got to watch Davis Mills, sarcasm there, but he led the NFL in passing yards in 2020, 33 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, but it's also ability to pick up those clutch first downs, because when Tua was at least playing quarterback at Alabama, not that he was mobile, but the issue is, they are so afraid to have him run that he's like Bubble Boy. They just want to be able to put him in a bubble and have nothing happen. The issue is with this offensive line, that's not going to happen. So I want somebody that can actually move around. If you're unable to get Deshaun Watson, maybe another quarterback could be somebody like Russell Wilson, who his camp has expressed plenty of trade interest, whether it's even recently of the past few weeks. I personally think that Wilson is totally checked out. If I was Seattle, I would try to move on from him. You have no first-round picks in 2022, and let's face it, Russell Wilson, even though he is, 33, 34 years old, he wants to play in a big market. Maybe he wants to play somewhere like New York. Maybe he wants to go somewhere like Miami. Sierra, I think, should be pretty happy in Miami last time I checked. And I get it. He's 34 years old. How many years does he have left? Russell Wilson is weird and psycho enough where he says he wants to play until he's 45. I believe him. I really do. If you told me right now that Wilson plays for another 10 years, it wouldn't surprise me at all. He kind of has that mentality of Tom Brady where that dude wants to go out, he wants to win every single week, and he wants to go ahead and show people that, hey, I deserve to be in the names. Like, remember when he was talking about Derek Jeter? He wants to be remembered like Derek Jeter. The only way that's going to happen is if he starts winning some football games and if he plays a little bit longer. Now, before I show you my number one quarterback that I think Miami should potentially go out and trade for this offseason, we got an awesome deal with some NFL jerseys here around the Dolphins. Now, some of these are even as low as $89.99. Usually when I show a jersey deal on the show, they go quick. So all I'm going to say is act fast. I'm going to do the whole airline thing. We got 2 jerseys left, 2 seats left. Chatsports.com/Dolphins jersey. Now, some of them are also $119, I believe, like this Jalen Phillips. There's a few Tua jerseys where if you're like, this guy's a douche, Tua's not going anywhere, hey, go put your money where your mouth is. There's Tua jerseys for $89.99. If for whatever reason you can't remember the link that's literally right below me, I'm going to put it in the comments. I'm going to put it in the description of this video. So if you need a Dolphins video or need a Dolphins jersey, no excuses. Chatsports.com/Dolphins jersey. Let's go to number one here on my list. If you're going to go out and trade for a quarterback, if Aaron Rodgers wants to come to your team, you would be dumb. I don't care what NFL team it is. There might be 5 teams in the league that would be like, you know what? Nah, we're good on Rodgers. Hate to break it to you, Miami. You're not one of those. Now, maybe you could convince, I don't know, Davante Adams to come join you. Davante Adams, Aaron Rodgers. If I was Davante, I'd want to try to stick with Rodgers. You know Miami's going to be looking for a wide receiver this offseason. Maybe they even look for a tight end if they don't decide to bring back Mike Gesicki. All I know is this. If you were to put Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, Deshaun Watson on this Dolphins roster, I think they're a playoff team. And if you're sitting there like, you know what, man, I think you're right too. If you were to put any 3 of these quarterbacks on Miami, they'd be a playoff caliber team. My response would be, what the hell are you waiting for? Go ahead and replace Tua this offseason. So out of the 3 quarterbacks that I just mentioned, would you have them go out and get somebody like Watson, type DW? Maybe it's Aaron Rodgers, AR. Russell Wilson, RW, if you think there's some other quarterback. And let's be realistic here. I picked these 3 names because I really, truly believe there's a realistic chance that they are traded this offseason. If you think there's another quarterback, I honestly think another name to throw out there could be Derek Carr. Type other down in the comments. Now, if you're like, you know what, Mitch, I don't want them to trade anybody. I want them to keep their picks. Well, here are some honorable mentions in terms of some free agents that you could go out and get. Personally, I don't want Andy Dalton. I wouldn't want Nick Foles. Don't want Cam Newton. Jameis Winston would be a halfway decent option, though I think if New Orleans was smart, they would try to bring him back. Mitchell Trubisky, can't trust anybody with that type of name. Mariota's going to be an interesting name. Usually when I bring him up here on this channel, everyone's like, all right, yeah, I'd be down for Mariota. Colt McCoy, Dwayne Haskins, I'll say no to that. Fitzpatrick, if you say, all right, Ryan, be honest with you, did you hurt your hip going down a slide with your 7 kids? And he's like, yeah, go ahead, bring him back, because actually he was halfway decent. Top 5 in the NFL in 2020 and overall QBR. Teddy Bridgewater, another interesting name. So those are some quarterbacks that are going to be free agents in 2022. So out of seeing those 10 names, who's the best one? Is there somebody that I forgot? I'm already going to, I can't wait to see, should the Dolphins go out and get Tyler Huntley? I mean, there's going to be multiple names that you guys, I guarantee you, Mitch, you forgot him. Mitch, you forgot him. Well, here's your opportunity. Let me know who I forgot. Now, if we talked about trades, we talked about free agency. The other route that they could go, which I will say, this isn't the route I would go if I was Miami, you could go into the NFL draft. Number 5 here on my list is going to be Carson Strong. I think he has probably the strongest arm in this year's class. Still a little bit of a raw passer, and I would not trust Strong behind this Miami offensive line, though I don't know if I would trust anybody behind this Miami offensive line. I do think that he's a better athlete than a lot of people give him credit for, and if you're going to go ahead and take him, I personally would say you're going to wait until the 2nd round. I would also then probably rather just stick with Tua than go out and get Carson Strong, but my job here is this, give you guys all the options that you could potentially look at if you are trying to replace Tua Tagovailoa. Let's go to the number 4 quarterback here in my draft rankings for Miami if they try to replace Tua. It's Malik Willis out of Liberty. I know a lot of you conservatives probably hate that school name, but he is super talented. Dual threat quarterback from top to bottom. Definitely still needs some development, but he's going to get a little bit better. I actually would like Willis more if he could learn underneath a veteran. Like, if you're telling me, all right, we're going to go ahead, we're going to sign Ryan Fitzpatrick, that way Malik Willis can learn underneath him, I'd be a little bit more on board for that instead of him learning next to Tua. But his versatility, his ability to be able to run does excite me. Now, a lot of people are going to sit here and like, oh, Mitch, he threw for 24 touchdowns, only 2,626 yards. I do want to make note, all the stats that you see are the stats that I put in before the bowl games, because bowl games anymore, everyone opts out and they're an absolute joke. So that's the stats that you end up seeing. But for Willis, he can run, he's athletic, and I do think he has a high upside. Let's go to the number 3 quarterback here on my list, Sam Howell out of North Carolina. Definitely started off a little bit rocky, but it definitely played better down the stretch. I'm personally not as high on him as a lot of other scouts are. His ability to be able to run, I know he's a tough dude. People always say, oh, he's a competitor. He can make all the throws. He can do this and he can do that. Not that I don't see it on film, but I just don't have this high expectation that everyone has, is where he was getting some hype saying, hey, he could be a top 10 pick. What worries me is Hal could be a lot like a pick like Tua Tagovailoa, where he's a good player, he's just not going to have that high of an upside. Now, I could be wrong. When you look at some of these numbers here, 23 touchdowns, 2,851 yards for the quarterback out of North Carolina. I also always say to myself, don't judge the helmet or don't judge the team, judge the player. But, man, I just look at Sam Howell, and I think Mitch Trubisky, and nobody deserves that. Let's go to my top 2 quarterbacks here. I got Kenny Pickett, quarterback out of Pittsburgh. He was nominated as a Heisman finalist. I get it. He's got small hands, and that's probably going to come up at least a dozen times during the NFL draft process. But the one thing that I like about Pickett is he's got 5 years of playing experience, and I'm not going to sit here and say he reminds me of Justin Herbert, because Justin Herbert is a much more athletic and better overall quarterback than I think Pickett is. But the one thing that I watched with Herbert, he got better basically almost every single season, or had more experience from his freshman, sophomore, junior, senior year at Oregon. And you kind of saw the similar trajectory with Pickett, where even like a guy like Joe Burrow, nobody really knew who Kenny Pickett was, and now he's on the map. Nobody really knew who Joe Burrow was. Then he was on the map. I like to see growth out of my quarterbacks, and that's what I saw out of Pickett. Let's go to number 1 here on my list, Matt Corral. And I know he was injured in his bowl game, but x-rays from what I see are negative. Even though he was carted off, hopefully he's going to be okay. And if you're telling me right now Corral's going to be good for week 1 of the NFL season, I'm okay with it. I like his arm strength. I think he's mobile. I think he can literally do it all. And if you're saying, all right, who's going to be the dude that has the highest upside in this year's draft, I'm a Matt Corral fan. 68.3% completion percentage, 3,333 yards, a lot of threes, 20 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. So after seeing all 5 of those quarterbacks there, if the Dolphins draft a quarterback, who would you want it to be? I know some people are going to be like, wait, you forgot about Desmond Ridder. Well, I have Ridder as my number 6 quarterback. I just not all that excited when I watch Ridder play. I know there's going to be some other people that throw in some other names like Caleb Ellaby, maybe Bailey Zapp, or however the heck you pronounce his last name. Zappy, that dude's got like 60 touchdowns this year. Just incredible. But that's from Western Kentucky. All I'm saying is this. If I'm going to draft a quarterback, I would really only look at Pickett. I would really only look at Matt Corral. If you guys disagree with me, let me know down in those comments. Now we looked at trades, free agency. We talked about Tua, even some guys in the draft. So here's going to be the final question on today's Tua replacement video. Who do you want to be the Dolphins quarterback next season? It's a perfect world. You get anybody that you want. I don't care who it is. Now, I guess I shouldn't say that. Let's be a little bit realistic. You're not going to get Mahomes. You're not going to get some of these other guys like Tom Brady. Who do you want to be the Dolphins quarterback next season? Rodgers, Wilson, Watson? Maybe you want Tua. Either way, I'm going to be looking down in the comments, so let me know what you're thinking.